guess I just kind of grew tired of the pain of Black people being a conduit for the wealth of whites. Yeah, that was pretty exhausting. What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Earthen's Den. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about therapy. Now, at first, if you know me, you know I was definitely not one who was advocating for therapy. I felt how I felt. I just was like, I'm not really in a space where I want people to be telling me how to think. I like to be in control of my own mind and to just do my own practices in regards to my beliefs and what I'm about and just X, Y, and Z. So I did end up going to therapy. I told you guys that in the last season. And I talked to you guys about therapy in the episode in regards to toxic relationships. But the first time I went to therapy, it was a Black therapist. It worked. Let me say it worked. And I tell you guys this too, like when it comes to therapy, I just want to let everybody know who does decide to go to therapy, it's only going to work if you work it, honey. That's like with anything in life. Like you're going to get what you put into it. So with that being said, if you go to therapy, I'm going to say, like, if you're not honest or you don't talk about certain things, or maybe you don't have that awareness, like you have to be honest about you not having the awareness, and you have to talk about the things that really concern you. You see what I mean? And understand this too, like you talk about whatever works for you. If you don't want to talk about your childhood, if you only want to talk about this coworker you're dealing with at your job, that's fine. So a lot of people think that therapy is something that's going to be this hypnosis type thing. I'm on hypnotic. Exactly. No, I'm kidding. And it's not. It's totally what you make it. And it's totally, conversation centered around the things that you decide to talk about. So just know that you are in control in regards to that. So, yeah, the first time I did therapy, I had a Black therapist. It worked out amazing. I recommend Psychology Today. They have all different kinds of therapists, a lot of different races for people who are not Black or white tuning into the podcast. There are a lot of different psychologists and therapists on there. There are Black men, there are Black women, and it's a multitude. It's in an abundance, right? So for me, when I think about therapy, I think the season in which I did go to therapy, it was something that I did need. I did 8 sessions. I completed 8 sessions. That's about 2 months worth of therapy. It worked for me. You know what I mean? Personally. And what I needed in that season really was validation. I had reached a point where a lot of things were brought to my attention in regards to why I did what I did. There was a lot of things I had to confront, a lot of things I was noticing within myself, within my family. And so what I needed was for my younger self to be validated. Like I needed certain experiences to be validated because there were things that happened in my life where I just felt like that wasn't right. That wasn't right. And so because being someone who is independent, being someone who grew up as the oldest child, where you at? Y'all know how it is. You know what I mean? You learn to do a lot of things on your own. You really develop a sense of self-reliance. And so because of this sense of self-reliance, right, I really just was in a space where I just would always take on accountability. Even when someone had wronged me, I never was in a space of victim because I just didn't feel like I was ever a victim. But I realized that, hold on, wait a minute. I'm not in control of anybody's actions towards me. And I could be in a space where I'm right where I need to be, doing what I need to be doing, moving how I should be moving, and someone comes against me and it's not right? So a lot of times we don't want to be the victim, but in those situations, it's not that you're ever a victim, right? You got to understand it is your responsibility to decide what's going on. But sometimes we have to be in communities where we are validated. Like we all need validation to some extent. If someone is like, hey, look, this person is doing this to me, and everybody's like, you need to not be the victim. It's like, wait a minute. Before we get into how I'm going to respond, can we at least acknowledge the fact that what this person is doing to me is wrong? So I think that was my biggest thing for therapy. So anyway, that worked out for me. I really got a lot of things off my chest. And moving forward, I think for me, it was really because of the lack of community. And I know that social media plays a huge role in regards to this, but I also talked to you guys too about the new wave of therapy, psychology, and how all of these terms, trauma bond, emotional dumping, and we understand when people call us and they just always complaining, and it's exhausting. Like we get that. But the fact that we're not connecting anymore, I believe that a large part is due to social media, but it's also due to science, and it's also due to this new discovery and this new wave of therapy. I don't really know the entire extent of therapy and how many people used to go to therapy and if it was even something that was really a thing. I know that we are in a space now because of the digital age. People are going to therapy, and I talked to you guys about the fact that it's actually not affordable. So actually a lot of people aren't going to therapy, but I think that a huge portion of this, we can contribute to the lack of connection. And I think that we can contribute that to this whole new wave of healing and self-awareness, because now people don't know how to show up for each other. When people are going through stuff, I actually like when my friends reach out to me. I don't have many, but it's like, I like when they call me after a long day and they're like, man, this is what was going on. Like, that was crazy. Now, of course, you got to be mindful. And I think just with age, maturity, and if you really value a person, you're going to think how this person is going to feel. So, you wouldn't call your friend every day, every time that you had a bad day. But and on those days when you do call your friend when you have a bad day, you realize, like, all right, I'm going to talk to her for about 15, 20 minutes, or I'm going to holler at this person or him, for 15, 20 minutes. And then I'm going to go on about their day. I'm not going to hold them up on the phone for an hour or two with my stuff, right? Because then at that point, it's just, you got to be considerate of other people's time. Unless, of course, they allow that and they allot that and they say, all right, cool. Like, I want to talk to you about this and we can vibe, right? So that's different. But my whole purpose of this is that because of social media, because of this new wave of like self-healing, self-healers, blah, 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 people don't know how to be there for each other anymore. And I'm really sick of it. And it's very upsetting, because that ruins connections with people. And I don't think people realize it. It's not emotional dumping. I say this all the time. First of all, Black people, we go through enough crap. You know what I mean? Like the main thing you want is community. And so because we're just kind of divided in that sense, it just makes it very hard. Another thing I kind of want to talk about, because I'm about to get into having a white therapist and going to a white therapist, but I really want to talk about this conversation in regards to race and between Black and white people. And, if you are of another race and you feel as though you've been oppressed, you can just feel yourself, you can cue in here. Let me breathe. What is exhausting to me, and something that is so exhausting, is that whenever we Black people talk about race and we talk about what is being done, what is going on, our experiences, I'm really sick and tired of it actually being taken as we don't like white people or we are badgering white people. That to me is so exhausting. I'm really sick and tired of white people not acknowledging what they do, what they've done, and what they continuously do to Black people and to other people that are not white in America, in society, on their jobs. It's really exhausting, honestly. And I know that there are some white people who are starting to stand into position, but there are a lot who aren't. You know what I mean? And I'm just really sick and tired of that. I think it's baloney how, Black people can sit here and we can express certain things. And, we talk about how we're feeling and it becomes you're just bad. You're just being mean to white people, or you just hate white people. That is so exhausting. Like, I can't deal with people who don't know how to face the reality. Like, I'm somebody who's just so true. Like, I'm so real. Like, I can't deal with people who can't face the truth. Like, I don't like connections where we can't sit here and like really see each other, and honestly, for myself, I'm really sick and tired of white people acting like they don't see race, they don't see color, they don't see what is going on, and they are just in this state of oblivious. Like, I'm not saying that we can't get along. Like, yes, we can get along, we can absolutely have a relationship, we can absolutely do those things, but we're not going to sit here and act like you don't see me. We're not going to sit here and act like you two don't you two don't come with stereotypes and generalizations in regards to Black people. Like, I just think for me that's just something I can't get with. And that's because I'm just such an authentic person. I can't stand that. I noticed, I'm gonna actually share a couple of experiences before I, end with this. But there was one time where I was out, and this is when I was on this whole manifestation trip thing, right? Meditating every day and X, Y, and Z. I ended up hanging out with this group of white people. I was at a bar, and I wasn't too drunk, but I was almost there, right? I was a little lit, and I realized that there was one Black girl. So I thought, okay, maybe I can just hang out with them for a while. Like, it was on a strip. We were just chilling out. So I'm like, okay, maybe I can hang out with them for a while. Like, this Black girl, she's a Black girl, she's cool. And I realized that something that I seen a YouTuber talk about, she talked about how there are some white people who will go and find black girls, black men who don't necessarily associate with black people. And I didn't think that this was a thing, right? There's podcasts about how skin folk ain't kin folk, okay? There are platforms where this is a conversation that is had, and I never realized it. Like, I think I saw it, but I could never put two and two together. Like, I never could sit in a space and be like, okay, yeah, that is definitely what is going on here. So anyway, I realized that there are some black kids who grow up in white neighborhoods who were taught that, because they are in a space where maybe they don't go over to their cousin's house. They don't go, to Forest Park, or they don't go where, you know what I mean? Like, Forest Park's not a bad place, but like, they don't go where their people are, right? There are some black people who grow up in white neighborhoods, and that's all they know. That's all they've been around. They don't go around any other black people. And so I think when you grow up with that space, you also kind of start to have a hate for yourself because of your environment. And you also kind of start to generalize and stereotype your own people. So it's almost like you're robbed of your culture and just like who you really are and how you're kind of viewed as the world. Now, don't get me wrong. Every black person is not the same. Like, hello, that's just like common sense. Like, not everybody is the same. Not everybody is, there. But I think that just being culturally in tune, that is something that is very significant. So I do think that there are some black people who actually just feel a lot more comfortable being around white people. And I realize that there are definitely white people who will choose and select black people to hang around because they don't have to really be authentic, and they can kind of just do whatever, say whatever. And there is no level of accountability or mutualism in regards to respect, right? Because there are black people who don't like themselves, or were taught not to like themselves, or simply didn't grow up, in environments where they were culturally introduced to black people of different, different backgrounds. Let me say that, right? And so I think that in that space, that right there, I don't understand that dynamic. So essentially, that's how this girl was. And I met another person who was like this as well. So anyway, night goes on. I ended up talking to this white guy. And, we were having a conversation. In the beginning, it was like real cool. It was real cool. Everything was fine. Like, it was fine. It was fine. And I noticed we were at the bar. At this point, I'm a little tipsy. So I'm like, I need to get home. Like, it's late. I need to get home. And I just remember talking to him. And I remember his friend sitting on the other side of the bar laughing. And they're like kind of down a little bit. And they're laughing and they're looking. And I looked at him and I'm like, how do you really feel about black girls? To me, I think we kind of have to have a conversation about the fetish of black women. And of course, we can sit here and talk about why was I there, X, Y, and Z. That's fine. But that's not the conversation for today. I realize that there's really a fetish in regards to black women, right? We always talk about hypersexuality and things like that, but that's a real thing, And so for me, my biggest thing with that whole relationship in regards to mingling and interracial dating and all of these things is, if it's really hard to develop a relationship with someone who just doesn't know who they are. And that's just period. I think if white people would acknowledge where they came from, what they do, and what they continuously do to other people, right? Because when we see George Floyd, when we see Breonna Taylor, that's a representation of me. Right? When we have mass shooters and when we have people who do things that are just like completely crazy, like that's a representation of you. And my problem is white people don't acknowledge this truth. And that's a problem to me. And I just hate that we can't sit in a space and have this conversation. Of course, white people never want to have this conversation. They don't want to talk about race. They don't want to talk about those things. And that's fine. Like, I don't think that everything has to be argued, right? We don't have to sit here and fight each other and go to war about it. But what we're not going to do, not in my space, not in my circle at least, is we're not going to sit here and just act like it's just, we're going to address the elephant in the room. And that's just me, and that's just period, right? So I think, the biggest thing, and my biggest thing with these relationships is that there is no authenticity in regards to that. It's typically a fetish, right? Oh, I want to be with black people because they're warm, they're compassionate, they're loving, they're X, Y, and Z. But do I really like black people, right? I don't like how it's kind of just like, okay, you want to celebrate black people and you want to come into these spaces, but you don't want to address the fact that your grandmother and your grandfather was a racist. That's a problem to me. That's a problem. Like, don't just sit here and make it seem like it's something that is not. Like, that really just, that bothers me. So my biggest thing in regards to therapy here lately, you guys, is that I really felt like, people say you have to find different therapists. Me and my friend talked about that, and I get it. I really do. I think you should find someone who works for you, but I just really felt as though it was something that was it was so uncomfortable, and I really felt like, when it came to me speaking with my white therapist, I didn't feel as though she deserves to know my story. And the reason why I felt that way is because I see so many quote unquote charitable acts. And I just feel like there are a lot of white people, and I've recognized it, there are a lot of white people who are in these spaces and in these positions, but they don't have the right intentions. And quite frankly, I'm really sick and tired of white people viewing those who they oppress, who they rob, who they demean, who they disrespect intentionally, as charity cases. I'm really sick and tired of that. So for me, being in this session with this white therapist, I just really wasn't here for it. I really just felt like it was, I was beginning to feel like there were a lot of people, especially in today's world, like because therapy is being so pushed heavily upon us. I was starting to feel like maybe it was just not like a conspiracy hidden agenda, but it made me, it was really beginning to concern me, right? Because she talked to me about pharmaceuticals, and I think a lot of people may be in that space where they, are doing the antidepressants, but I'm not with that, you know what I mean? And so it made me question whether or not, in regards to therapy, it's like, do people do this because it's so easy? Like, it's easy to become a therapist. It's easy to become a life coach today. You know what I mean? I really felt as though, that was something that anybody could study, right? And that was really just out of shallow curiosity, right? And the desire to kind of like compare yourself to other people and be like, okay, yeah, I feel a whole lot better that this isn't my thing. But do you really have a desire to help, though? Do you really have a desire to, be in that space? Because honestly, it saddens me that we have to pay people to listen to us. I think that we should be able to go to people that we trust and we choose and we decide to be with and have them talk to us and have them, be in communion and know the deepest parts of ourselves versus walking around, having a stranger walk around knowing all these things about you. Now, like I said, my first therapist, she was a Black lady. I did feel a lot more comfortable with that. But, I think having a white therapist just trying this out because it was, it was free. Trying this out, it just kind of switched things for me, and it just kind of made me think about it a little bit differently. And like I said, I'm not completely opposed. Obviously, I'm doing it. I've done it. But I just had to get on here and share my thoughts. For anybody who may be wondering, what is it like? Like I said, that to me, I think is the real intention. But I think at the end of the day, it's just like, man, finding people who are in fields who genuinely want to help. It's no different than kind of like being a podcaster or being an influencer. You have some people who get online and they demean, they talk badly about people, and they, you know what I mean? Then you have people who get online who, love what they do. They want to help people. They're helping people and they're doing it in the way that's empowering, right? So it's no different than that. So don't take it as like, this thing to where it's like, oh, therapy is X, Y, and Z, but more so just kind of look at it and just understand that, there's going to be people who are good at what they do and people who do things because they just can, right? And that's in any given space. But, yeah, definitely. I was like, I don't know, man. I feel like this person, it's like you leave somebody with a part of you, like conversation and things like that. It was a little bit deeper than what I, thought, I guess. And so, I know that's like, I don't want to give a negative thing in regards to therapy, but I just kind of wanted to address the biggest thing that was, on my heart and on my mind is the lack of community, around friends and family. Like, learn how to show up for your people. You know what I mean? And everybody's like, oh, you shouldn't be serving. You should get paid for your service. Not really. No, you shouldn't. Like, everybody shouldn't be paid for their service if they aren't good at what they do. And they don't really have a desire to do that. I personally don't think that. Why should you be paid for that? You know what I mean? Like, especially if you're not transforming anybody's life, if you're not doing it in a way that's like, you know what I mean? And here's the thing. I don't really care. I think that you can make money doing anything, whether you're good or bad at it, whether you're intended or ill-intended. But I think the numbers don't lie. Right. So that's one thing. I just got to throw it out there. Right. So don't let me discourage you by any means, but just be mindful of that. And so I hope that this episode kind of gives you a little bit of insight in regards to my kind of like therapy tip and journey. And, I was very curious, which led me to try the white therapist and wondering, okay, how is this going to be? And I know that it may sound like I am just being completely, far-fetched in regards to this, because it was only one session with this white therapist, and I was like, okay, I don't have to, but I just, I want to sit in this space and not understand, but really deliver some understanding. Because I think for me, now I get why so many Black people are reluctant to therapy. I get it now, So that's what I'm going to end with. I don't want to go too far left. And yeah, I hope that this was insightful. Let me know what you guys think. Send me a voice memo. Send me, hey. All right, guys, I'm going to leave you guys with your thoughts, and I hope everybody has a great day.